what do you want people to feel when they look at your brand? Like, I think this is really important. What do you want? What feel do you want them to have?
Hey, my name is Felix Tia, and I'm the host of Shopify Masters, a weekly podcast powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. Each week, we invite entrepreneurs like you to share what they've learned growing successful e-commerce businesses. In this episode, you'll learn the viral posts that increased their baseline sales forever, why they got everyone hands on deck and what they were doing when their post went viral, and the new problems you face when you go from a 7-figure business to 8 figures. Today I'm joined by Julian O'Reilly from Moonglow. Moonglow sells jewelry that features a picture of the moon from the date of your choice and is tracking towards becoming a $10 million business. It was started in 2011 and based out of Miami, Florida. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Felix.
Hi, Felix.
Hey, so Julian, you mentioned to me that you started the business off by selling, or I guess both of you started business off by selling the Jewelry 101. So tell us about how this went early on.
So early on, we were selling Moonglow jewelry in events like fairs and home shows and markets and pretty much anywhere we could sell it in person. So that's how we started before we did e-commerce.
Got it. So what was that step then? The next step, like if you're selling 101, like how did you guys gradually make towards building a more scalable business?
Yeah, well, the first thing was at the events we would sell there. We would meet customers, we get them all excited, and then we didn't have a website, so we knew we needed a website so that we could introduce the product to people, and then people could obviously buy later on. So we built the website shortly after launching the company because we knew that we wanted to get some of that recurring revenue going.
Got it. I think you also mentioned to me that you guys also have a wholesale arm that you started off somewhere in between selling 101 to building something more scalable.
Yeah, so basically the way it went is we did events, just me and Aurélie, for a couple of years. We traveled around and we thought that was going to be kind of the best way to do it. Then we built a website, started getting some traffic there. We were still pretty heavy on the events. We're doing maybe like 36, 40 events. And we were also working with a couple salespeople that were also traveling, doing other events, Comic-Cons, and just all different type of events where we thought, we could sell and introduce the brand. Then in 2013, 2014, we started thinking about wholesale, selling it to stores, because I think we had maybe 1 or 2 store owners that had approached us and say, hey, this is a cool brand, cool product. We would like to sell in our stores. And they did, and it went really well. And then I started to see that that's a recurring revenue, because once the store opens and if it's successful, they'll keep ordering, hopefully for years. So that was about in 2014.
Got it. So most people will start off in e-commerce, definitely these days, and maybe even in 2011 when you guys started. What made you guys decide to go with in-person events to start?
That's how we started. I worked in sales, like selling items and different fairs and things like that. And so that's just what I knew. And I knew that I could sell it and make a living at it as well. So Aurélie came on board, we joined forces and just we were doing events that way because that's just what we knew. And it was already kind of working.
Got it. Now, when are you guys still selling at events today, or is everything transitioned to wholesale and online?
So we reduced it quite a bit, just because we wanted to focus more on the wholesale and e-commerce, but we still do some events, and then we also do the trade shows for wholesale. So that's really only open to the businesses and the buyers and things like that.
Got it. Now, when you are at an event, or if someone were to follow in your footsteps and start going to events to sell their products 101, what would you consider a successful showing? Like, how do you determine if if that's the right approach? After you do like 10 or so, how do you evaluate if it's a right approach or not?
I would say if you're making money or not. If it's profitable, then you're probably doing something right. If you're losing money and you're working really hard, then you might want to reevaluate that.
So you think that it should not necessarily be easy, but like you shouldn't have to like fight and claw your way towards profitability if you're going to these events?
Yeah, I think if you work hard, a good product, and obviously not every event is going to be a home run. You can't win all the time, but as long as it's profitable the majority of the time, you should be in good shape. And I think that it should be somewhat easy. And I think that you should have, if you're not a salesperson, at least have a salesperson who's outgoing and who's going to really captivate people and show your brand, show your product, and get people excited about it.
Got it. Are there certain products and categories that based on your years of experience doing this, like are there certain products or types of products that are going to do better at these at selling at 101 at these events?
Yeah, usually it's something that you can kind of demonstrate. So when you start talking to somebody, like have some type of demonstration, something that's captivates their attention, like something that usually is a little intriguing to the eye. Like you're doing some type of demonstration, usually works a little bit better.
Got it. Now nowadays, how do you determine which events that you guys should be at? Like, what are you looking at?
Well, now we've got it. We've got it narrowed down that we know which ones kind of work because we've done so many, I feel. But the first thing is attendance. The larger the attendance, usually the better. Not always, but usually if it's your demographic and there's a good attendance, it's a pretty good indicator that it's going to be a good event.
Got it. Okay, so you guys are selling at these one-on-one at these events, started kind of branching out into wholesale, and then you decided to go the e-commerce route. So what was that first step towards building an e-commerce business? Because now you have to start gearing things up. I guess also at the wholesale side, you have to start changing your business a little bit so it's now going to be scalable. What kind of things did you have to put into place to make sure you could scale the business?
So we've had 3 different websites. The first one that we built was right in that time period when we started the company, right? 2012, 2013. And that website was really bad, but it did work because people that we would see in the events, we would sell to them, they would want to buy again. So they already kind of knew the brand, so they would purchase on there. Then we rebuilt another site on the Drupal platform, and that's when it started. We started to use some heat maps and started to get a little bit more technical and try to improve the conversion rate, because these were all things that I didn't know or we didn't know prior, and we learned about. And then finally we made the switch to Shopify Plus and really got pretty serious about it.
Got it. So because now you're going online and the marketplace is now online, I'm assuming your marketing had to completely make a shift. Like, what did you guys have to do there to start driving, traffic? Because you show up at these events, there's already people there, there's already traffic, that is present. But now when you're online, you have to start pulling that traffic to your website. What were you guys doing early on to start driving your customers to the website?
So one of the first things that we did early on is in 2012, I met this marketing agency in California when we were doing the OC Fair in Orange County, California. And the marketing agency was like, hey, you guys should, advertise. And at that time, there was no paid ads. I think it was just Facebook. So we basically started working with them, paid them to start doing some marketing. Just posting photos and engaging the audience and things like that. So we started that pretty early on, which was tough because we didn't really I was like, oh, am I going to get an ROI on this? But I was like, screw it. So we just did it, and that kind of started that. But we also started doing SEO early on, in 2011, 2012, right when we launched the first site, and we started really analyzing those keywords and started earlier on. And now organic has become a pretty good steady stream of visitors to the sites.
So with SEO, what kind of content were you building? How do you know what kind of content to produce to put on your site?
So it was a lot of content writing. It was pretty white hat stuff. It wasn't, black hat or back in the day, people would just link build or whatnot. It's our SEO has been pretty strong all the way throughout. We were just writing a lot of articles and trying to get some good backlinks and things like that. We were working with an agency and we just kept working with an agency and kept it going. And I guess the content was good. The site was good, that Google started ranking us for, many different keywords. So now we're pretty strong in any moon jewelry related keywords.
So are people you trying to attract people that are searching moon jewelry, or is it more educational content? What kind of, how would you say you invest in the content? What kind of topics or what kind of types of content are you producing?
Yeah, so, branded was important. Obviously, people searching for our brand name, which is Moon Glow Jewelry. So made sure that that was ranking really well. And then we went after kind of the moon jewelry, moon bracelets. And at the end of the day, that is what we're selling. So it is relevant. And then also phases of the moon and things, people that are interested in that aspect of it as well, with writing like good quality content about the moon and things of that nature.
Got it. So people that are searching for moon jewelry, they're ready to buy. Obviously, it makes sense to bring them in, get them to convert probably on the first visit. But for people that are just coming in to learn more about the moon and are trying to get educated, I guess, about the moon, and not maybe hasn't crossed your mind yet to buy jewelry, do you have a kind of different follow up process for them? Like, are you trying to get them on your email list? Like, how do you nurture or not even customers yet, but how do you nurture visitors that aren't ready to become customers yet?
So earlier on, we didn't really have a plan. Like, we were just bringing traffic to the site. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we started getting more analytical. And now, obviously, we try to get them on our newsletter, and then retarget them all over the place, whether it be Google, Facebook, Instagram. We hit them with the retargeting, and really trying to have engaging content. If they are on our email newsletter list, we really try to keep it, like, it's not always sales. Like, we try to keep it fresh, also all cohesive. So if they follow us on Instagram, like, the branding is all the same and everything, and really try to make it a fun experience. Like, we don't want to shove sales down their throat all the time, really trying to make it a two-way conversation here.
Got it. So you mentioned to me that you guys had a few viral events online, and one of them was when you were in Thailand. You looked at your phone and you had a post that made it all around the internet and had 100,000 visitors in one day. And from that day on, your base sales were never the same after that. So what was it that went viral that day?
So it was one photo. This woman on Twitter, she had purchased, or her boyfriend purchased, like 2 necklaces, and she kind of converted them to a bracelet. And it was the phase of the moon, I think from the day they met and her birthday, something like that. And together it made a full moon. So it's kind of a romantic thing, a cute thing. And she just posted this photo. It was kind of like a funny meme, and people were just saying like, man, I'm not that romantic. And it just started to become like a funny meme. But it really, people understood what we were selling. It's jewelry that features the picture of the moon from the date of your choice, like the day you met someone or your kids or whatever. So people got it, and this thing just made its way around the internet like so many times. And we just woke up in Thailand, and I looked at the traffic, and I was like, what is going on here? So I called the marketing agency right away, and I was like, guys, we gotta get on this. And then what did we do? The first thing we did is the original person who tweeted it, I think we said like, thank you. And we gave her like another free piece right away. So she was like actively in the conversation, like defending us. Cause some people were saying like, oh, people always like hate in the comments or they love or whatever. And she was just in there like throwing fuel in the fire and kept it going. And then they got like retweeted, and all these popular Instagram accounts were like the meme accounts were posting it, and traffic kept on coming.
So this was a customer and not even somebody that you guys were like working with to create content to go viral?
Exactly. We really just got very lucky. And then organic shot up through the roof because I guess Google saw like a ton of people coming, and then along with that, then we also saw the flaws too. We saw that our conversion rate like tanked, and obviously not everybody came to the site that was interested. But they may have just come to see. But we still, at that point, realized that we should probably work on our like website experience, and we were really afraid that the site was going to crash. It didn't, but it's definitely slowed down. So we realized that we needed to make some adjustments.
Have you learned anything from this in terms of like what is required or what might give something, a post, like a post, for example, or an image, a better chance at going viral?
So we went viral twice. That was completely, organic. The second time, it seems to be the same thing. Like it's always a boyfriend buys like the necklace for someone, and it's kind of romantic, I guess. It's the moon on the day they met, and that's what the necklace represents. And then people kind of put a caption like, so romantic, like I'll never be that romantic or something along those lines. So it's kind of funny, but it's true at the same time, and people see that it's a real photo. So I think these type of things, it's hard because when it's sponsored, people obviously know it's sponsored. So when it's real and it really is real, people know that, and then they engage with it. And sometimes you just get lucky. But I think it's important to have people posting these photos, encouraging people obviously to post the photos and, to use the hashtags and things of that nature, because then you'll have more opportunity to get it out there and more chance that it's going to get picked up.
Right. You can only do so much, but if you can encourage activity and getting real customers to put out content, something might catch on like it has a couple times for you guys already. So what can you do to ride this wave? If something does take off, maybe not to the same extent that it has for you guys, but I'm sure to some lesser degree, someone posts something and you get a big kind of tick, it has a bigger splash than what you normally get, and you start getting traffic coming in. What can you do to again ride the wave and extend this kind of exposure?
Well, first, it's all hands on deck. We make sure that like our customer service team everybody is ready, because there's a big surge happening. So right away, it's like, all right, guys, let's get to it. And then we monitor kind of the comments, and we make sure that we engage in the comments, and we're talking to people. And a lot of times when it does go viral, they see the product, they see the brand name, they don't really know the website, because it's not something where it's not a sponsored post. So there's no click here or people can click.
Right.
They usually just go finding it on Google. So we do comment. People see us commenting from either our Twitter account or Instagram account, so they know where it's coming from. So people that do want to buy it, like, we make it as easy as possible for them. The second time we went viral, we took that same meme and we gave it to a meme account. I think paid them like a couple $100. They had like 1 million followers or something to repost it, just to kind of keep it trending on Instagram. And that's what we did the second time, and it worked.
I like that you guys took what was already working and then gave it to someone that had a big distribution. It's already proven to work. It's already kind of in the, I guess, internet zeitgeist for that day, and you push it along by getting to someone that had a big distribution. So you mentioned that the base sales went up. Do you remember how big of a difference either one of these made for your base sales?
What happened is, when we went to 100,000 followers, visitors on that first explosion, then it kind of went to like 75 and 50, and then our visitors just doubled over time. So our sales essentially doubled right after that, and they just kind of kept doubling. And because we really feel that we had a good product, a good brand, a good story, we just needed to get it out there. So I guess if you do have a good brand, a good product, and people like it, more eyes get on it. I mean, naturally you'll make more sales, and people will tell more people or whatever. So it really just kind of doubled from that point, to be honest.
Wow, that's amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about hiring. So you hired a team member for branding and social media management, and they were able to give you kind of resources to start rebranding and making the brand look more professional, which you say speaks to the importance of investing in your team, because it's made a huge difference for you guys. At what point did you decide to do this, to focus on hiring someone for the branding and the social media management side?
So the first company that we worked with over in California, which I said we had started working with them in 2011, 2012, they had grown like our follower count to around, I think, 10,000 on Instagram. But the branding was like, the photos they were using weren't very good. And then we met somebody who we became friends, and she was saying like, the photography is like not very good. Like, you guys, it's not cohesive. Like, the colors suck, like all this stuff, which was, we were very humble about it. Like, yeah, you're right. And she was young. She didn't really have a track record. And we hired her. We brought her on, and she really did her thing and grew that follower account in a year from like 10,000 to, I think now it's like 75, got us verified, got the whole branding cohesive. We like redesigned our whole office. And it really started to look the same all across the board, which is something that we didn't understand or have too much time to do. But just made such a big difference, because when somebody hasn't experienced the brand, they come to the site, like, it's got to look legit. Like, people will look at your Instagram, they will look at who's wearing it, they'll look at your tags, and if it all clocks out, they'll be like, all right, this is a legit company, I'll buy from here.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review on iTunes to let us know what you think or what you'd like to hear more of. Now, let's get back to the interview. Right. So you said to us as well that you should work with experts and don't try to save money by doing everything yourself. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially I guess if they're bootstrapping, they're struggling to get by, kind of get stuck here where they're trying to do everything themselves. They're getting spread too thin, so they can't grow. They can't reinvest in their business. So is there a certain stage where this starts to make sense? Like, how do you know when you should kind of step away from certain things and start hiring people to fill in those aspects or even those gaps in your skill set?
Yeah, for the first couple of years, it was really me and Akari grinding away. Like if we would stay up till 4 a.m. doing orders and doing that whole thing, outgrew the house like many people. Then we got an office, small office, with one employee. So it was really when it got to the point we couldn't do it anymore. We would upgrade. When we realized like, okay, our branding's not going to get any better. Like, we've grown as much as we can. Let's take it to the next level here. Let's invest in it. So I think it's like not too early. I think start doing it yourself up until it's like you can't do it anymore or you can't make it any better. And be honest with yourself and say, look, like I need to give it to somebody else here who's going to be able to do it better than I can.
So when you're hiring like an agency or individual, is your kind of evaluation process the same? Like how do you approach the difference between like hiring someone that's a team member versus like an agency?
So agencies, yeah, we've been through a couple different agencies. They're tough. They're tough. Sometimes you just won't know. You got to give it 2-3 months to really see what they can do, unfortunately. And same thing with employees and team members. I mean, not everybody's good. Ultimately, we're looking for like the best 10% we can find. And we don't settle for less. We really try to get the best that we can find. So we had to let go of a lot of people because of that, and in the end it works because now we got a good team in place, everything's working, and it's kind of been growing very, very well because of that.
So what do you do? Like how do you evaluate? Because I think this is a skill set that is it takes time to develop. But are there any things that you've learned along the way to more quickly identify if someone's going to be a good fit or a is successful in the role that you hired them for?
Yeah, well, for example, I mean, for paid stuff like paid agencies and things like that, paid marketing, I mean, that's pretty simple. That's a return on ad spend play. So, I mean, it's either you're making money or you're not. And how long will you go until you don't see a return? Because there are certain agencies that we worked with that there was no profit, and they wouldn't really respond very quickly. So you start to get that gut feeling like, all right, we're probably not that important to them. We're not making much money. We need to make a change here. So that's how it works with paid agencies. With people in-house, we used to hire pretty quickly, and we had a lot of problems. Like we had to do a whole kind of change the team and change the culture. And then we hired a fantastic manager to kind of take our place because we were managing all of the employees and the team members, but that becomes a big job. And it's sometimes what was happening is that we were working so hard on growing the business and doing so many things that we couldn't set the right culture because, let's face it, you if somebody calls in sick or whatever, for the owners, you just work and sometimes it can be frustrating, but you have to manage those things well. And that's when like an office manager for us who really was able to take what we wanted, like our culture and ping pong and all that fun stuff and happy hours and implement all that stuff for us. And then you have less turnaround, you have a better team, you have a happier team, and everything just seems to work a lot better.
How do you decide if you should hire someone in-house or an outside agency?
It depends for certain things. It's tough. But the thing is for us, most of our team does the fulfillment. So because our product is kind of custom, so it's very hard to use a 3PL. We've actually tried that. We used a 3PL, flew to Kansas, and there was just a lot of mistakes. So we knew right away, like for that, we were not going to outsource this. We're going to do it in-house. Much more difficult. You're dealing with employees and everything that comes along with that. You need much more space. But we knew that was the right route for the customer to get the proper customer experience. Same thing for customer service. We really like to have our team in-house, and sometimes they can work from home and stuff if they want. But when you have those employees in-house, they're part of the culture. You guys all get along. They understand the brand. They know the brand, and then I feel that the customer gets a much better customer experience.
Right. So these days, do you have an agency for any of the? I guess what do you have an agency for?
So we use an agency for search engine optimization because I feel that's something that's changing a lot. So it's better to use experts to stay up with the trends. We use an agency for Google ads, any paid ads, Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And then we outsource also with some photographers and videographers, but we also do some of the videography and photography in-house as well. So it's a mix of the two.
Got it. What's your interaction and guidance that you would give for an agency? Because you mentioned that they're mostly like marketing agencies, right? People that are doing SEO or Instagram and Facebook ads. Like, how do you make sure that they're, I guess, on track? Like, what kind of guidance do you provide?
So I think with an agency, for example, any paid ad agency, for us, it's really simple. I mean, it's that return on ad spend, like how much do you expect, and setting those guidelines from the beginning. Like if you spend 1,000, are you expecting 2,000 sales, 1,500 sales, 1,200, 3,000, so that you know, and they know what they're trying to hit. Because at the beginning, we didn't really set those expectations. It was just kind of like, hey, make sales. Because we didn't know how much. So it's being clear about that, your expectations with them, and then they know their KPIs or their goals, and then have weekly like meetings to see if it's working or not and what you need to adjust.
So if it isn't working, or if you can think of an example where it's not tracking in the right way, like what can you do, or is there anything that you can do, or is it literally kind of in their hands and maybe it's not a good fit? You have to find a new agency.
Well, see, earlier on, for example, we started working with one agency, and the website wasn't that great. This is pre-Shopify. The branding wasn't. We weren't selling it as a lifestyle brand. It was very different. It was very dark. The experience, and we worked with the agency in our weekly meetings. Like it was working, but it was working on a small scale. And I was like, hey, I want to scale it. And he was honest. And he was like, look, you need to probably sell the lifestyle, like the whole customer experience, because it's true. I mean, they can send people to your site, but once they land there, it is your job to give them a great experience and make sure everything is on point and there's no problem. Everything flows well from the time they come in to the time they check out, and afterwards as well. So that's when we started looking at Shopify, and we rebranded and did all those things that earlier on the agency told us. So a good agency should also guide you on what you should do, to make sure that you're both successful, because the more sales obviously you make on your website, the more the agency will make as well, so it's a two-way street.
Right. So what's your process for finding an agency to work with?
Well, now, before I used to just go online and then look around, and I still do that, but now I think like being in groups and knowing people that have worked with agencies that are very good and have a proven track record is probably the best way to go.
So you're looking for like referrals?
Yeah, referrals, or like, for example, me in the Shopify Plus group, a lot of people talk in there, and I'm in a few other groups as well. And a lot of people have some pretty good brands that are doing some strong sales that also have recommendations. So that's usually the best way to go, in my opinion.
For you, is it a requirement that they have worked with a company in this space? I guess in your case, with like jewelry or something?
No, not necessarily. Like we sell jewelry, but it's more the experience that we're selling. It's a very unique type of jewelry. So no, it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the case where it's like you can't really pinpoint to another company that is similar to you in that initial conversation. Like, how do you see if they get it? I guess, how do you determine if they get what you're trying to create?
Yeah, and we had to do some back and forth. Like there was a little tension sometimes between the branding and making sure that, because the first thing that one agency that we did is they wanted to discount everything, and we're not a big discount company. And then we also had some pushback from our director of sales and wholesale. She was like, Julian, what is going on here? Like you're discounting everything, or at least the messaging said site-wide, but it wasn't site-wide. And that's obviously going to work. Like if you have a company that doesn't make sales and then all of a sudden you blast it out that everything is 20% off site-wide, you're going to make a ton of sales, but then you're known as a discount company, and that was not something we wanted to go down. So it was we had to do some back and forth, make sure that the integrity stayed there, the brand integrity, the messaging, and we weren't always trying to do sales and things like that. So we went back and forth, but we were able to find a good meeting point.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that one of the times the agency said that, hey, we can only do so much. You have to spend some time to improve the website experience and also the brand that comes along with it. Can you talk a little about that? Like, what changes did you guys have to make to improve the website's conversion rates?
Yeah, well, just for starters, like the whole flow of the site and the way it looked and the amount of clicks. So we had to improve the way it looks, rebrand all the colors, much better photography, like reduced we had way too many clicks when we did a when we did a revision there of how many clicks it takes to get to the checkout. Like we just identified it's way too many, so we reduced that and really started to get that good photography and that good experience so that people can. It looked attractive or much better than it did at least, and that made a big difference in our conversion rate.
Yeah, the too many clicks thing I think is important because each click is an opportunity for someone to drop off. Like, what are some things that you guys had before that you cut out?
So it was just like our checkout was too long, for example. Like there was just like I think there was an extra 2 clicks there. Like, sometimes your checkouts are just so long, and that's something that obviously Shopify did really well. So one time, I'll just give you a story. I went to a meetup like early on. It was kind of I'll look at your website and give you some advice type meetup. And we started working with this guy locally. We don't work with him anymore, but he told us a lot of really good things. Like he was kind of a conversion rate specialist, and he was local, so we could meet with him and things. And that's when he really started to. I learned a lot from him. Like he was like, "This is way too many clicks. Like here's all your problems. Look at your heat maps. Like look at all this." And then we started making a lot of big changes.
Got it. So you also mentioned that you wanted to improve the way it looks. So did you guys hire like a design, some kind of design agency to work on that?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, one of the marketing agencies that we work with who told us that we needed a better customer experience plugged us with a design agency, a Shopify Plus approved partner, I think they're called, or something like that, over in New York, and started working with them. So that's it. A good agency as well. They have contacts with photographers, videographers, designers, and different things that can really help you.
And when it came to the better photography, like what was the direction here? Like how did you know what better meant?
I think Henri can talk to you about that, but I think that the photography it needed to all be the same. Like it was kind of different. Like the whites weren't all the same, and what was it? Like some items were larger.
Yeah, I think as far as product photography, it needed to be more consistent. But I think the issue is that we didn't have any like branding to start with, so we needed to really like determine what our branding would look like.
Yeah, we didn't even have.
Yes.
We didn't even have like like our colors down, and we weren't sharing that with people. It was kind of like just do whatever, just sell it. Like we didn't have like a press kit, like a proper press kit. Like these are the colors, this is our logo. Like those are all things that kind of came afterwards.
Yeah, guidelines.
Yeah, like branding guidelines.
Yeah. Are there questions you should ask yourself then to get this down? Because like you mentioned colors, what does the logo look like and things like what else should you be asking and know the answers to before you have a strong grasp of like be able to point to something like this is the brand?
I would say like, what do you want people to feel when they look at your brand? Like, I think this is really important. What do you want? What feel do you want them to have? I think before we were all over the place with the colors. So it was red, brown, blue, and like now we have much more like calming tones, like blues and whites, and everything's very bright. Everything's very fresh. It gives you that feel of like it's very clean, and so I think it's important to define what kind of experience, what kind of feel you want all throughout your website, all throughout your photos.
Right. I think Julian, you mentioned that a lot of times entrepreneurs just kind of want to run as fast as possible, just sell this. Like, who cares about the way this looks? If it's selling, it's fine. But taking the time to improve the brand is kind of a step back. I mean, it's a step back to take 2 steps forward, but you still got to kind of pause things and like spend your energy and your focus and your capital on improving this. Was it an easy decision to make to say let's invest the time and slow things down a bit so we can improve the brand?
I think it was an easy decision because we knew that we had to do that in order to take it to the next level. Because if you're not trying to grow a bunch, or like your pool of people is very small, it's fine. But if you're really trying to scale and those little things make a difference, and the margins kind of get smaller and smaller as you get bigger and bigger, you're spending more money and getting people to the site and things, that all these little things are very, very important to do. So we did realize that we needed to make these changes and needed to be, the same, like our branding guidelines needed to be respected everywhere, online, offline, trade shows, stores, shop in shops, wherever it is now, it all looks the same. And it gives you look more legit too as well. Like people would see us in trade shows and be like, wow, you guys have really come a long way from when you started. And it's true. It looks better. It feels better. And it's like, it's all the same experience. So I think it's important.
Does it make sense to focus on these details in the brand when you're just starting out?
I think so.
I would say like if we had to do it all over again, I think that's where you would start. I think what led us to make this decision, hiring someone to help us with the branding, is that, we were trying so many things like flyers, graphics, and we were always not fully satisfied with the way it came out, and everything was so like not consistent. So at the end of the day, you do waste a lot of time trying to find your way into like, the way your brand looks. And so I think it is something you should actually focus on like in the first steps of your business.
Got it. So were there any apps that you guys used or services that you guys recommend to improve the customer experience? Because you mentioned that the branding thing, you guys had to figure out for sure to improve the website. What about just like apps or anything like that to improve the customer experience or the conversion rates?
Yeah, so one of the big metrics we're tracking is obviously the conversion rate, but the return customer rate as well, the customer satisfaction rate. So we use Yodpo for reviews, and we monitor those reviews big time and really read them every single one every week and try to improve on those. So I think that the reviews is obviously important. Apps that really help us, we've been going more international, and we grew that channel quite a bit this year. So we use Flavor Cloud for really good shipping prices, international. It's pretty easy to use. It's an app. It doesn't cost very much, and you can ship really, really cheap internationally.
Awesome. So we mentioned at the start of the show that you guys are on track to build your first $10 million, over $10 million a year in 2019. What kind of problems do you guys face nowadays that you didn't face when you're just trying to get to that first, seven-figure, that first $1 million business?
Yeah, it's a whole different set of problems now. Like it really came down like this last Christmas. We thought we had a big enough team, and it just wasn't, because again, we fulfill our own orders, we do our own customer service, all that stuff. So we just didn't have enough people, and we all had to grind, and the morale started getting pretty low. Like people are just worked out, we're doing 70, 80 hours. So that was super tough. And so it's trying to predict, and then it drops off again. It's not that it's seasonal, but obviously Christmas time, and then you get into like January, it's much slower, and then you've got all these people, and it's trying to juggle all that type of stuff. Difficult, and obviously you're spending much more money, so the finances become more important, where to put your money and things like that, and where you're going to grow. Like for us, we're growing online, we're also growing offline in the brick and mortar space, and partnering with some great websites, other websites that sell our brand, and other great stores. We built these like really cool counters, so we've been working a long time on these counters and invested quite a bit of time and money into these, but we know that we place these in different great retail locations. You're going to get a ton of traffic seeing your brand, and also a ton of sales selling your brand as well. So sometimes you gotta invest in the right places.
So as you guys are building all this out, like what do both of you like to focus or prefer to focus your time on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, and I also want to say another thing that we did too last year, like before we had a like kind of not an employee problem, but like a team culture problem, because we were the managers of the office and manager of the employees, but we weren't always there because Aurélie was on photo shoots and I was at trade shows, and there was kind of a negative attitude had started to take place in the office, and it got really bad. And then some people were saying that, some weird stuff is going on in the office, not supposed to happen. And I don't know, like I'm not even there, and I don't know much about being, HR compliance and all that type of stuff, so I didn't quite get it. So that was really hard because we had to essentially kind of let go of a lot of people that were just really killing our culture. And we had to get new, fresh people, a new, fresh manager. Now the vibe is so much better. We have an amazing team of people, and they love coming to work. Our turnover has been almost zero. We do crazy ping pong championships, and it's awesome. Like the vibe is great. So that was a big challenge.
Mm-hmm. So I guess nowadays, what do you prefer to spend your time doing? Do you have you guys handed off the kind of office management stuff, or like what is where can you add the most value these days?
Yeah, so we created an accountability chart, so everybody has really like defined roles and what they're doing. So I'm more like in the finance and working with the marketing teams to make sure that I'm growing that top line revenue. And already works more in marketing, photography.
Yeah, so I oversee anything that's creative in the company. So anything that has to do with photography, graphics, different projects for wholesale, retail.
Brand integrity too. We did put already in charge of making sure that everything is like who's got the final say on the brand integrity, and that's already to make sure that it's really something we want to push out there, or we want to be advertising.
Yeah, and then I also do inventory management and anything that has to do with buying product, but also developing new pieces for the line. And this is what I really would love to be focusing on more, because I think we've done great things this past year with some new pieces that we designed, and I think people are really liking it, and I'd like to take this one step further. So
awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So moonglow.com is a website. And for the both of you, what is the biggest challenge that you guys think you will overcome this year?
The biggest challenge, I think, is hitting those goals. We set some pretty high KPIs for ourselves, and it's gonna be tough. We're holding everybody accountable to hit those KPIs. So we're just pushing through to make sure we can hit all our goals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Felix.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify. To get your exclusive 30-day extended trial, visit shopify.com/masters.